The Echoing Isles. Chapter 1. The Lure of the Forgotten. The humid summer air hung heavy, the kind that made even the most mundane tasks feel like a chore. For Maya, Jacob, Dylan, and Jesse, however, boredom had reached a critical mass. Their college break stretched before them, a seemingly endless expanse of lazy days, and they yearned for something, anything, to break the monotony. That is when Jacob brought up the old Northwood Mall. Remember that place, he had asked, eyes gleaming with a conspiratorial light. Supposedly been abandoned for like 10 years. I heard some weird stuff about it too. Strange noises, flickering lights inside. Dylan, the skeptic, scoffed. Probably just rats and faulty wiring. You are thinking of those creepypasta stories, Jack. But Maya, always drawn to the allure of the unknown, was intrigued. Abandoned mall? That is kind of cool. Like a real-life urban exploration. Jesse, ever the pragmatist, finally chimed in. If we do it, we should probably be smart about it. Tell someone where we are going. Bring flashlights, maybe some bottled water. And so the seed was planted. A week later, armed with flashlights, a map they had found linked, and a healthy dose of bravado, the four friends stood before the Northwood Mall. A chain-link fence, rusted and bent in places, encircled the massive building. The facade was a patchwork of faded paint and cracked concrete, a testament to its years of neglect. It had that dead-eye look of something forgotten, like a memory eroded by time. They slipped through a gap in the fence, the metal groaning in protest as they moved past it. A musty, stale odor wafted out of the abandoned structure, a blend of dust and decay. The thrill of the forbidden tingled on their skin as they stepped inside. Chapter 2. The Familiar Transformed. The mall's interior was a strange mix of the familiar and the deep unsettling. The layout was instantly recognizable. Dash the central atrium, the long corridors of storefronts, the food court on the upper level. Yet, everything was wrong. The storefronts were hollow shells devoid of merchandise, their glass windows clouded with grime. The once bright, generic mall lighting emitted a weak flickering glow, casting long, distorted shadows that danced along the walls. This is weird, Maya muttered, her voice echoing in the cavernous space. She shone her flashlight down a corridor. The beam seemed to swallow into an unnatural darkness. Jacob, usually the most enthusiastic, looked around with a growing sense of unease. Yeah, it does not feel right, does it? The air is really thick. They decided to stick together, navigating the labyrinthine hallways, the rhythmic echo of their steps, the only sound, besides the low hum of the building's failing electrical system. They found an old directory, its faded map largely useless now. The stores listed were ancient history, names they had only ever heard of in old sitcoms. At one point, they stumbled into what was once a department store's cosmetics section. Empty display cases sat like silent tombstones, the air thick with a cloying, artificial floral scent that had long lost its charm. Jesse, usually unflappable, ran a hand along a dusty counter. This place is giving me the creeps. Let's just check out the food court and head out. Chapter 3. The Shift. The food court was on the second floor, accessible by a central escalator that was now frozen in time. They took the stairs. The food court looked like a disaster area. Dash overturned tables, scattered chairs, and shreds of old paper menus covered the floor. It was the same unnerving mix of familiarity and wrongness, amplified by the absence of any other sign of life. Dylan, trying to lighten the mood, attempted to joke. Maybe we should try the mystery meat from that old place, he said, pointing with a goofy smile to a faded menu. The smile faltered when he noticed the menu. It was written in the same style as others they had seen, but the dishes themselves were odd, strange-sounding names that made no sense. That's weird, he said, rubbing his face with his palms. As they were about to explore more of the food court, the lights flickered, then went out completely, plunging them into absolute darkness. "Flashlights! Now!" Jesse shouted, his voice edged with panic. They fumbled to switch on their lights, the beams cutting through the inky blackness. When the lights came back on, the food court had changed. The layout was subtly different, the tables positioned in a way they hadn't been before. They could see what appeared to be different restaurants all around them. All of the menus were written in different, alien alphabets. "What the hell just happened?" Maya asked, her breath catching in her throat. Jacob pointed at a large, circular window that had not been there moments before. It was an elevator, which was now in its descent. Everyone gathered at the door, the atmosphere thick with tension and a strange sense of dread. Chapter 4. The Labyrinth Deepens. They decided to try the elevator. The door slid open, revealing a plain steel interior, lit by a single harsh fluorescent tube. They hesitantly stepped inside. When the door slid shut, a chill went through them. There were no buttons. The elevator began to move, descending smoothly and silently. They looked at each other with wide eyes, the initial thrill of exploration long gone, replaced by a growing sense of unease. The doors opened onto a long, narrow hallway. The walls were a sickly pale yellow, the floor carpeted in a worn, institutional green. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, a low, grating sound that grated on their nerves. "This isn't the mall anymore," Jesse whispered, stating the obvious. Corridors similar to this one stretched out infinitely in both directions. No familiar stores or exits. There was no trace of the familiar mall they had entered just hours ago. The air was still heavy with the same stale odor as before, but now it had intensified. It is like Dylan hesitated, searching for the right words, like we are inside one of those backroom photos. You know, the ones from the internet. Maya felt a cold dread settle in her stomach. She had read about those places, endless, liminal spaces that felt both familiar and alien, where the rules of reality seemed to bend and break. They started exploring the hallway, the low hum of the lights their only companion. Every corner looked the same, every door identical. They tried to keep track of the hallways they explored, but soon lost all sense of direction. They talked, trying to reassure each other, but the unspoken fear was palpable. Chapter 5. Whispers in the Walls. As they continued to trudge through the labyrinthine corridors, strange things began to happen. Shadows flickered at the edges of their vision, and the humming of the lights seemed to warp into unintelligible whispers. Jacob started to see images, fleeting glimpses of distorted faces in the corners of his eyes, like something trying to break into their reality. They would vanish when he focused on them. Dylan, the most pragmatic, tried to rationalize it away. "It is probably just our eyes playing tricks on us. We are tired," but the unease grew with each passing minute. They found a room that appeared to be an employee break room, with cheap plastic chairs and an empty coffee pot. When they went inside, the lights flickered again, and suddenly the room was filled with the smell of rotting meat. They scrambled back out, the smell following them. They heard what sounded like footsteps nearby, but when they looked, nothing was there. Maya was trying to keep calm, but she could feel her resolve crumbling. This isn't just a creepy abandoned mall. Something's really wrong. Jesse, his usual stoicism gone, agreed. "We need to find a way out. This place, it feels like it wants us to stay." They begin to get a sense of malevolence from the surroundings as the whispers get louder and more intrusive. They began to doubt their sanity, but the feeling of this place being dangerous was very real to them. Chapter 6. The Unseen Exit and the Unknown Future. They pressed onward, the whispers growing into a chorus. Suddenly, they came upon a door that was different from the others. It was a dull, wooden door, plain and ordinary, with no doorknob, yet it had a faint, warm light spilling from underneath it. They hesitated. This was not part of the normal monotony. It felt wrong, but better than the maze they had been inside of. "Should we?" Jacob asked slowly, his voice shaking, looking around to face his friends. "We have to," Maya said, her expression resolved. With a deep breath, they pushed on the door. It swung open easily, revealing a room bathed in a gentle light. It looked less like a backroom space and more like a back patio of a house. A small garden with comfortable lawn chairs and a table with a pitcher of lemonade on top of it. They stepped inside and the door vanished. They looked back to see that the hallway they had been in had vanished, replaced by a hedge that seemed to be the edge of the garden. They sat in the patio, taking deep breaths and attempting to calm down. The warmth of the sun felt good on their skin. It seemed like an escape, a real escape. But the memory of the hallways, with their whispers and shifting walls, still clung to them. They knew that they had been through something unexplainable, something that went beyond their understanding of reality. They rested for a while in the patio, drinking lemonade and recovering their strength. But they knew that they had not escaped. They had only been moved. They still had no idea how to get out, or what the rules of this place were, or if they would ever see the real world again. They looked out at the hedge as if to say, "What now?" Their summer break had taken a very unexpected and terrifying turn, one that would haunt them for a long time to come. The echoing aisles of the Northwood Mall, and the strange dimension it had led them to, were not something they would soon forget. The mystery of what they had encountered was still open, a question mark hanging ominously over their future.